Welcome to Field of Screams podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Incantation. This is a Taiwanese found footage film, and I will just burst straight out of the gates and say that I found this movie absolutely terrifying. I recently just did an episode over the movie Hereditary, and I talked about in that movie how that movie freaked me out a lot when I watched it in theaters. And after I had watched that movie, there was kind of a common saying of whenever a new scary movie would come out, people would be like, oh, was it as good as Hereditary? And, me and my friends, we'd do that for a while, but we just always felt like no movie ever lived up to how scary Hereditary was when we watched it for the first time. So, after a while, I just kind of got to thinking, and I remember even telling my friend, I'm like, I don't think there'll ever be another Hereditary. I think we've just seen it all with horror movies. We've watched a lot. Some might spook us a little bit. There might be themes that creep us out. There might be parts where it kind of startles us. But I don't think there will ever be a movie that kind of keeps me up at night, like Hereditary did in theater. And then came one night during a random summer, me and a buddy, we decided we were just bored. We're like, oh, let's, put on a random scary movie. And I was just kind of going around and I opened up Netflix. And on Netflix, there was, a little movie that popped up called Incantation. And I was like, I wonder if that's any good. And, usually they give you a little preview. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't that impressed with the cover art of Incantation. I feel like the cover art kind of does it misjustice was what I was about to say. It doesn't do the movie justice really at all. And if you look up some cover arts for this movie online, there are some really bad Photoshop copies of this movie, and when you see it, it almost looks like a Harry Potter type movie. It doesn't look good at all. Because after I saw this, I wanted to recommend it to another friend, and he Googled it, and he pulled up a cover art of the movie, and he goes, "Dude, what is this?" And I looked at it, and yeah, it looked bad. But I remember, we saw this movie and it gave a little brief trailer, and the scene that it was showing us, the movie seemed dark and it was something paranormal. And I was like, if we're lucky, maybe it'll be the same as Paranormal Activity. So I was like, I'll just put it on. If it's bad, we'll laugh, whatever. So we decided to put this movie on. And the beginning actually did have a scene that reminded me of Paranormal Activity. And I was actually excited because I like Paranormal Activity. And I was like, oh man, we might have another Paranormal Activity on our hands here. This is going to be awesome. But the movie kind of ventures out of that territory a bit. The thing with this movie, it shows events and sequences out of order. And it's kind of like a puzzle box type film to where you don't quite understand everything that's going down until the very end of the film. And by the time you hit the end of the film, you feel like a train hits you. But I will say, even before the end of the film, there was a point in this film where I just felt such dread for what was coming forward in this movie. And in my head, I was like, I think I might ask my buddy to pause this film for a second. I feel like I need a break. It felt like it was just a lot watching this film. It does a very good job, and there's some people that kind of complained about it being out of sequence and it being confusing. But I feel like it kind of does this movie a huge favor. Especially if you're like me. You're not Taiwanese, and you're probably not very familiar with Asian culture, which is a reason why I like watching these types of films, just because it's just something very foreign to me and it makes me interested. Whether it be about another culture's religion or the way of life, I think it's interesting. It's different. So I like watching it in that aspect, but also that foreignness of the film can also make it a little eerie in itself because it's unfamiliar, it's unknown. So when you're watching something you don't quite understand, it's out of sequence, which kind of adds a little more to the confusion. That could probably just make some people confused and they might not like it in certain ways. But for me, I think it did definitely help because there's just this dark energy, these dark vibes that just thrive while you're watching it and you're trying to piece it together. whenever I looked this movie up on Reddit, there was a lot of people that complained that after watching this film, they didn't feel quite right. And I feel like because this movie, like a big theme of it is faith. And the director even had to like come out and he's like, listen, like a lot of the lore and stuff, the religion we made for this movie, we made it up. We designed it. We don't want people freaking out having episodes over this, so like just calm down. There's a part to where it says it's based on a true story, which it is. The true story that they base this film on is really creepy. It's like an entire family who believe like they're being controlled by like foreign deities, and they all ended up murdering like their oldest daughter. Like the entire family, like as a group project, murdered that older daughter, which is extremely like creepy. But I think the theme of it all is just like, if you believe in something so much, it can affect you as a person. And like this movie takes like control of that like really hard, because there's a lot of like audience involvement in this film. There's parts to where they do chants and they want you to chant with them. They want you to put your hands up during this chant. They want you to watch the screen, watch this Ferris wheel as it spins. And all that stuff is very, very eerie and unsettling if you are a faithful person. Like, as I've grown up, me and my friends, like, we like to go to, like, haunted places, like these abandoned houses that are supposedly haunted, and we do all those types of adventure-type stuff. But whenever we would do that, there were some friends, they would occasionally say, like, dude, we should get a Ouija board. And I was always like, nope, not doing that. And they're like, oh, come on, like, it's fake, and, they go on that big tangent or whatever, but I never wanted nothing ever to deal with that, because, like, in my mind, there's the pros and cons. Pro, it's all fake, and we waste time by moving this thing along a board, and then whenever we tell other people about it, we're like, yeah, we got this game board, and we tried to communicate with the spirit, and nothing happened. And then there's the cons of, like, getting possessed. And I was like, I don't want demons in my life. I don't want to mess with a Ouija board. And I know it's made by Hasbro. But even, like, still today as a 30-year-old man, someone's like, hey, we should try to mess with the Ouija board. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm just good. Alright, I've gone on, and I haven't really talked about the events of this film, so whenever you watch this film, like, I'm not going to go kind of linear, because, like, it jumps around, and it's, like, all kind of crazy. But basically what you get is you get this girl, her and two of her friends that were guys. They started a YouTube channel where they're trying to catch the paranormal. They go off into like the mountains, and they stumble upon like this cult. And this cult was doing like this big ceremony. And in the middle of the ceremony, basically they get like intertwined with it. And when they do, like basically one of their friends like commits suicide, the other one goes completely crazy, and then this girl, she ends up being pregnant at the time. And the father of the baby, like, he died, so, she still has this baby. But part of the cult, like, they basically give up their names, and then, like, this old hag lady, she tells the girl that she will have to give up her daughter in 10 years. Well, when she gets home, and again, this is all found footage. And again, this is all major spoiler territory, so if you're gonna, like, go check this out, like, check it out and then come back. But again, spoilers. That girl, though, after she, like, comes across that, like, creepy, super-duper cult, she goes home, shows her parents watch the footage, because along that mess, gosh, there's so much to this film. Like, along that mess, basically, like, you see the face. You learn that it's Mother Buddha. That's, like, the deity of this film. And the parents, like, see the video of it all happening. They see the face of Mother Buddha. And if I'm getting this stuff wrong, let me know in the comments. And when they see the face, they get into a car crash. And this girl's like spiraling. She has her baby. She goes into like a mental ward. She goes through the treatments and everything. Later on in life, like, it's like flash forward. She gets her daughter, gets a court order, picks up her daughter. And when she takes her daughter back in, freaky stuff starts happening again. Because, she went through all these precautions. She got, like, exorcisms and stuff. They basically put the found footage, like, in the secure place. But when she comes upon the daughter is technically like property of like the devil evil Mother Buddha cult. And paranormal activity stuff starts happening. Now, while all this is going on, like the daughter becomes like possessed, opens up the case to the camera, watches footage of it, and once she watches footage of it, she becomes sick. She becomes paralyzed. The girl then looks for help. Comes across like these two priests, like a married couple. They said the only way, like they said Mother Buddha is so powerful that the other deities, this girl will have to eat this substance, and then the younger girl can't eat for 7 days straight. And they said, you better stick with this because it's the only way we can even suppress Mother Buddha. And if you ignore this, then terrible, terrible things are going to happen. Well, the young girl, she starts like throwing up. She's very sick. She's crying. She's begging her mother for food. And it's very, very tough to watching her go through all the sickness. Eventually, the mom caves, feeds her daughter. And when she feeds her daughter, both the priests that tried to help, they like visit the priest's shop. And whenever she like walks in there, the one priest is dead and the wife is like possessed and basically tells her that she's screwed. Once all that happens, like she's going through like all these different outlets just trying to solve this problem. And eventually she comes to the conclusion that she's going to go into the temple. She's going to show Mother Buddha's face. And it's all going to be on this found footage. And she tells the audience to say this chant out loud. And it's like really freaky stuff. And then by the end, you find out that, she is spreading the curse to you, the audience. Now, I said the entire plot out loud just because, A, if you're coming here because you're confused about what's going on in the movie, try to explain it a little bit, at least my interpretation of it. But B, if I just talk about certain scenes and I'm like trying to let you know what's going on with the plot, like there's a lot going on with the plot. And I'd probably lose my place and wouldn't do a very good job. But really that's what you get, but it's like samples, and again, it's going back and forth in time. So like you really don't know like the full story until like towards the end of the film. And like, man, like as this movie's going, on paper with me just kind of breezing through it probably doesn't sound that scary, but the entire time, like the score is so good and unsettling. Literally in China, they made it to where the score had to be like tampered down a bit. Literally, like they made it to where when this movie's being shown in China, like the score was like knocked down a few notches just because like it's just so loud and so gripping and creepy. And it works perfectly during like every aspect of this movie. Like once this movie got about like 40 minutes in, like I never felt comfortable. Never ever did I feel comfortable. And again, like it's just like an attack like on the faith, like a little bit. Like if you like believe this thing could possibly happen, like this movie goes further and further and further, and you want to find out what happens to this girl who was just being stupid during her teen years, and you're like, like I hope she like grows out of it and her daughter can live a happy life. But yeah, like it's again, it's very tough. The toughest part for me in this film was actually the bit to where the priests tell her that she can't feed her daughter for 7 days. And literally, like, you are just watching, like, the daughter getting sick. She has these bumps on her skin. She's begging her mom for food. And, like, this was, like, day 2, I think, where the mom caves. And even watching it, I'm like, listen, I know she's not supposed to feed the girl, but give the girl some freaking food. Come on now. I'm pretty sure whenever I watched this, I was, my wife was pregnant with our first kid. So, like just that little, like I was like relating to it. I was like, oh, don't do this to your kid. Come on, like be a good parent. Sometimes when you're younger, you don't really view it through that lens. But then like when you got one on the way, you're kind of like, oh, this is scary stuff. Hopefully I don't have to deal with this when I have my kid. I won't go to some random cult's ceremony. Which, that also I felt like was when the movie started going up some notches, whenever it showed that aspect of them being at the ceremony. Because that sounds like something it would be like at the beginning of the film, but again, this shows stuff like out of order. And that ceremony, like, it's pretty heavy hitting stuff. It's pretty freaky. So of course it's like in the middle to the back end of the film to where you're figuring everything out. Whenever the mom goes to the priest's little shop or temple, that was when I was kind of like, I was contemplating on whether stopping the film or not. Because like the movie's going like 100 miles per hour. And there's literally like, as she walks in, like there's all these like figures that represent different deities. And all of them turn their back to her. Which just tells you that like how screwed she is. Like no deity's even gonna look in your direction because you disobeyed, what you should have done to keep Mother Buddha at rest, or trying to suppress Mother Buddha. So I felt like that was a nice touch in this film to make it even scarier. And then the very end, whenever she has the audience do the chant with her. Again, that really messes with you because it's like, oh, say these words out loud, and the words are like flashing on your screen really quick. And of course, like as you're watching, like your curiosity gets the best of you because you've made it this far in the film, and you've seen all the scary things it has to offer, and you're like, oh, and like she's like, oh, say this chant will help my daughter. And like, so like a little part of you's like, oh, I want to help the daughter. But then like another part of you's like, but I know better. I know better not to be doing this. But then like as you're watching it confused and you're curious and these words are flashing on your screen and in your head you're reading them out loud. And then like about midway through you're like, wait, I'm reading this in my mind. I could be activating this curse. So then like you start like second doubting that, and then like the movie just ends with her like, yeah, so now you have the curse. You got it now. And then it's like, I don't know, it's almost like the first Saw movie where Jigsaw like slams the metal gate shut, and then like, the other guy's like, no! Like that's how I felt. Again, I found this movie just very, very scary and powerful. I'll give it the award that this is the first movie to creep me out more than Hereditary. It's been a very long time since I would give that movie a nod. But someone ever asked me, like, what's the scariest movie you've seen recently? I think it would have to give it to this movie here, Incantation. Like it legitimately just freaked me out. And like it's kind of, I talked about the Mother Buddha thing a lot here. Like this movie doesn't do like the typical thing that like possession movies or like spirit movies do. Like I feel like a lot of movies nowadays, they're like, oh, I did my research and there's a demon called Balthazar and he's quite the trickster. And this is why he likes to do that. And you learn the demon's name, and then like, I don't know, goofy stuff happens. Like, no, this movie like kind of just keeps you in the dark, and it's like, yeah, weird things are happening. Did you know this girl went to a cult ritual? Yeah, did you know that her daughter's cursed? Like it's, it just gives you these breadcrumbs, and you're just like picking them up slowly along this dark, isolated road, and you're like, I just want to go home. But you got to keep picking up the breadcrumbs because you're curious as to what's going to be at the end of this breadcrumb trail. I don't know, terrible analogy, but you get what I mean. There was actually a couple people on Reddit that claimed that they felt sick for more than a week after watching this film. Now, granted, a lot of people are checking up on them. They're like, do you still feel sick? And they're like, well, a little time's passed and I feel fine now. But I just feel like, again, the human mind's such a powerful thing that, if you think you're legitimately cursed, or you watched a curse like movie or tape, your body's gonna like kind of interpret those feelings, and like you may will, ill feelings going on in your body, if that makes sense the way I worded that. I worded that really weird, but just like if you think long enough that you're gonna feel sick, eventually you're gonna feel sick because that's what you're thinking of. Sometimes you just gotta remember a movie's a movie. The director literally came out and stated it, because like too many people were freaking out, too many people were claiming they were getting sick from this movie, and he's like, guys, I made it up. Like, come on. So again, like faith is a very strong thing in this movie, praise upon it. And it does a really good job. I feel like it's going to be a long time since I'll say a movie dethrones this. And I think something that just helps with that is like I had no expectations walking into this movie. I just clicked on a random movie on Netflix, and this happened. When I went to see Hereditary, I didn't know a thing about it. And it shocked me. I wasn't expecting it. Sometimes, movies in theaters, they kind of do themselves a little disservice when they're like, oh, scariest movie you'll ever see. And then, like, you go in expecting, like, the complete shocking thing that it's promising. And then when it doesn't quite live up to that, you're like, I don't know. I didn't like it. So, just picking a random movie like this on Netflix can definitely get you. But it was really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. And I think, because I really wanted to cover this. I wanted to cover this after Hereditary, because Hereditary used to be the old trophy holder. And this one's kind of my new trophy holder for, like, scariest movie I've seen recently. I do want to kind of build on this episode by covering more foreign films, because I feel like I just haven't covered that many on this channel. I know one that's supposed to be really good is called The Wailing. And I was just kind of looking up random foreign films, that are kind of similar to this. And I saw a movie called The Medium is like it. I watched the trailer to The Medium and it looked unsettling. So, I'll probably check that out. And we'll go from there. Yeah. So I'm just kind of teasing as to what's coming up down the road with this channel. If you're interested, make sure you subscribe so you know when the next one comes out. And if you could give this episode a like, it'd help out the channel a lot, gets this episode out to other people. And if you're still listening, thank you so much. And if you haven't watched this movie, man, oh man, watch this movie, especially if you're looking for something that just kind of scare you. This is my dare for you. I dare you to just wait till late at night, turn off your lights, put this on, see if it startles you. Because I bet it will. It startled me. I'm throwing that out there. And it's a pretty solid movie. It's shot really well. Again, the score's insane. The score made me feel really uncomfortable. And I liked all the characters in it, and it did a good job at doing what it was supposed to do. So, yeah. That's been my review for Incantation. Again, thank you so much if you're still listening, and until next time.